If you wake up every single morning already needing to clear your throat, if you constantly feel like something is sitting right there, right at the back of your throat, something thick, something that just will not go away no matter how many times you swallow or cough, then this video was made for you today. You are not imagining it, you are not overreacting, and you are absolutely not alone. Millions of people around the world deal with this every single day, and most of them spend years going from one doctor to the next, trying one remedy after another, and still nothing changes. The mucus keeps coming back, every morning, every evening, sometimes even in the middle of the night. And here is what is so frustrating about this problem. Most people are told it is just allergies, or acid reflux, or maybe a sinus issue. They get treated for one thing, it does not help, and then they move on to the next guess. But the real reason this is happening is almost never what you expect. And today, we are finally going to talk about it clearly and honestly. Because this is not just an inconvenience. That constant feeling of something stuck in your throat, that never-ending urge to cough or clear it, that thick, uncomfortable sensation that follows you through your whole day, it is your body sending you a message. And if you keep ignoring it or treating the wrong thing, it will only get worse over time. So stay with me through this entire video, because by the end, you are going to understand something that most people never find out, something that changes how you look at this problem completely. And once you understand the real cause, the path forward becomes so much clearer. Let us start from the very beginning. Let me ask you something simple. When did you last go through an entire day without needing to clear your throat even once? Try to remember. Was it last week? Last month? Or has it honestly been so long that you cannot even remember what that felt like? That right there tells you everything. Because when something becomes this constant, this predictable, this much a part of your daily life, your brain starts to accept it as normal. You stop questioning it. You just live with it. You grab your morning coffee, you clear your throat, you go about your day. And you do the same thing tomorrow, and the day after that. But here is what your body is actually trying to tell you. That mucus, that thick, stubborn coating that sits at the back of your throat, it is not a random accident. It is not just the weather. It is not just aging. Your body is producing that mucus on purpose. And understanding why it is doing that is the key to everything. Your throat and your airways are lined with something called mucous membranes. These membranes exist for a very good reason. They are your body's first line of defense against bacteria, against dust, against dry air, against anything that enters your respiratory system. Under normal, healthy conditions, these membranes produce a thin, clear, almost invisible layer of mucus that does its job quietly and you never even notice it. But when something irritates those membranes, when something triggers them, the production goes up. Your body shifts into protection mode, and instead of that thin, quiet layer, you now get thick, heavy, visible mucus. The kind that collects at the back of your throat, the kind that makes you cough, the kind that forces you to clear your throat over and over and over again throughout the day. Now here is where it gets important, and this is the part that most people completely miss. There are two very different categories of triggers that cause this to happen. The first category is what most people assume: external irritants. Things like pollen, dust, pet hair, cold air, smoke, dry indoor heating in winter, mold in older buildings. These are real. These matter. If you live in a home with poor ventilation, or you spend a lot of time in dusty environments, these triggers are genuinely irritating your membranes every single day. And your body responds by making more mucus. That is a straightforward cause and effect. But the second category is the one almost nobody talks about. And it is far more common than most people realize. Internal triggers. Things happening inside your body, quietly, without obvious symptoms, that are causing your mucous membranes to be in a constant state of low-level irritation. Not a cold, not an infection, something slower, something deeper, something that has been building up over a long period of time. And this is exactly why treating the external stuff, the allergy sprays, the antihistamines, the saline rinses, sometimes helps a little, but never fully solves the problem. Because you are treating the surface while the real trigger keeps running underneath. Think of it like this. Imagine there is a small drip in your ceiling. Every time it rains, water gets in. You can keep wiping the ceiling dry every single time it happens. That works for the moment. But if you never find where the water is actually coming from and seal it properly, you will be wiping that sealing for the rest of your life. The mucus in your throat works the same way. Clearing your throat, using sprays, drinking hot tea, these things bring temporary relief. But the internal trigger keeps signaling your body to produce more. So what is this internal trigger? What is actually happening inside the body that keeps those mucous membranes in a constant state of overproduction? The answer involves something you almost certainly would not suspect, and it connects directly to one of the most important systems in your body. A system that most people think has nothing to do with their throat at all: your digestive system. Now, before you dismiss that, stay with me for a moment. Because what happens in your stomach and your esophagus has a direct and powerful effect on what happens at the back of your throat. And the connection between these two things is something doctors are increasingly recognizing as one of the most underdiagnosed causes of chronic throat mucus in adults. Here is what happens. Your stomach produces acid to digest food. That is completely normal and necessary. But when the valve at the top of your stomach, a small muscular ring called the lower esophageal sphincter, becomes weakened or stops sealing properly, that stomach acid begins to creep upward. Not in dramatic, painful waves that you would immediately notice, often just a slow, silent, low-level rise. Just enough to reach the back of the throat, just enough to irritate the delicate lining there. And when that lining gets irritated by acid, even mildly, even without you feeling obvious heartburn, your body's response is automatic and immediate. It floods the area with protective mucus. It is trying to coat and shield the tissue from the acid. And so you feel that familiar thickness, that constant need to clear your throat, that sensation of something always being there. This condition, where acid quietly reaches the throat without causing the classic chest burning that most people associate with reflux, has its own name. Doctors call it laryngopharyngeal reflux. And the reason so many people never get diagnosed with it is because they do not feel the classic heartburn in their chest. They just feel the mucus, they just feel the throat irritation. And nobody connects those two dots. But here is what makes it even more complicated. Acid reflux is not the only internal cause. There is something else happening in many people alongside it, or even independently of it, that is also driving constant mucus production. And this one connects to something that millions of adults deal with every single day without even realizing it is a health issue at all. It connects to what you are eating. Not just spicy food or fatty food in general terms. Specific foods. Foods that most people consider completely harmless. Foods that are a regular part of a normal daily diet. Foods that are silently triggering inflammation in your mucous membranes every single time you eat them. And once you understand which foods are doing this and why, something that seems completely unrelated to a throat problem suddenly becomes the most logical explanation in the world. Let us talk about food for a moment. Not in a complicated scientific way, just in a simple, honest, practical way that actually makes sense for real life. Every single day, most adults eat and drink certain things that they have eaten and drunk for decades. Milk in the morning coffee, cheese with lunch, bread with almost every meal, maybe a glass of cold milk before bed because it feels soothing. These are not unusual choices. These are completely normal, everyday habits that billions of people share around the world. But for a very significant number of adults, especially people over the age of 40, these exact foods are quietly doing something inside the body that almost nobody talks about. They are triggering mucus production. Not in a dramatic, obvious way. Not in a way that gives you a rash or sends you to the emergency room, but in a slow, steady, invisible way that keeps your throat coated and thick every single day of your life. Here is why this happens. Dairy products, meaning milk, cheese, yogurt, cream, butter, all of these foods contain a protein called casein. Casein is perfectly fine for many people, but in a large portion of the adult population, the body has difficulty processing this protein efficiently. And when casein is not fully broken down during digestion, it triggers a low-level inflammatory response in the body's mucous membranes. The membranes react. They produce more mucus. And that mucus ends up exactly where you feel it most, right at the back of your throat. This is not an allergy in the classic sense. You will not sneeze uncontrollably. Your eyes will not water. You will not break out in hives. It is far more subtle than that. It is just that constant, unexplained coating. That thickness that greets you every morning before you have even had breakfast, because the dairy from the night before is still working its way through your system. Now add to that something else: gluten, the protein found in wheat, in bread, in pasta, in crackers, in most processed foods that fill modern grocery store shelves. For people with a sensitivity to gluten, even a mild one that would never show up on a standard allergy test, consuming it regularly keeps the gut in a state of low-grade inflammation. And inflammation in the gut sends signals throughout the entire body, including to the mucous membranes lining the throat and airways. Those membranes respond to the inflammation by producing more protective mucus, and again, you feel it every single day. And here is something that makes this especially tricky. Both dairy sensitivity and gluten sensitivity tend to become more pronounced as we age. The digestive enzymes that break these proteins down efficiently become less effective over time. So something your body handled perfectly well at 30 may be quietly causing problems at 50 or 60. Your diet has not changed, but your body's ability to process certain things has. And the mucus in your throat is one of the first places that change shows up. But food is only one piece of this, because there is another internal factor that is driving chronic mucus production in adults, and this one is connected to something that happens while you are completely unconscious, while you are asleep. Your sleeping position matters far more than most people realize when it comes to throat mucus. When you lie flat on your back, gravity is no longer helping your body keep stomach contents where they belong. That weakened valve we talked about, the one that is supposed to seal the top of the stomach, has an even harder time doing its job when you are horizontal. And so during sleep, small amounts of acid and stomach contents can creep up into the esophagus and reach the throat. You do not feel it happening. You do not wake up. But your throat does feel it. Your mucous membranes respond while you sleep. And when you wake up in the morning and immediately need to clear your throat, what you are actually experiencing is the aftermath of hours of low-level acid irritation that happened while you were completely unaware. This is why so many people find that the mucus is always worst first thing in the morning. It built up while they slept, and no amount of throat clearing in the morning fully resolves it because the body just keeps producing more throughout the day as the irritation continues. Now here is something that connects all of these threads together in a way that is genuinely important to understand. Chronic dehydration. Not severe dehydration, not the kind where you feel dizzy and faint, just the quiet, everyday kind of dehydration that most adults walk around with constantly without realizing it. The kind where you drink coffee in the morning, maybe some tea during the day, a glass of something with dinner, and you think that is enough. But your body, your mucous membranes specifically, are actually running significantly below the hydration level they need to function properly. Here is what most people do not know. When your mucous membranes are underhydrated, the mucus they produce becomes thicker and stickier. Your body is trying to conserve water, so the mucus it creates becomes more concentrated, more viscous, more noticeable. And thick mucus sits. It collects. It does not drain efficiently. It does not clear easily. It just stays there, at the back of your throat, coating everything, making you feel like something is permanently stuck. And so you drink hot tea or warm water, and it feels better for a short while. Because the warmth and the liquid temporarily thin the mucus out and help it move. But the moment that effect wears off, the same thick, sticky coating comes right back. Because the root issue, the chronic low-level dehydration, is still there. Think about how much fluid most adults over 50 actually drink throughout a typical day. Coffee in the morning that actually has a mild dehydrating effect. Maybe water with meals, but not always. Tea in the evening, but real, consistent water intake throughout the day. For most people, honestly, it is far less than their body actually needs. And the throat is one of the first places that deficit becomes visible in the form of that thick, uncomfortable mucus. But now here is where it gets even more interesting. Because there is one more factor at play that ties everything together. Something that most people would never in a million years connect to the mucus in their throat. Something that is happening not in your stomach, not in your diet, not in your sleeping position, but in your immune system itself. Your immune system and your mucous membranes are in constant communication. They are deeply connected. And when your immune system is under stress, when it is dealing with something it perceives as a threat, even a low-level, non-obvious threat, It signals the mucous membranes to increase production. This is a survival mechanism. It is your body trying to create a stronger barrier against whatever it perceives as dangerous. But here is the problem. In modern life, the immune system of many adults is in a state of chronic, low-level activation. Not because of a serious illness, not because of an active infection, but because of things like poor sleep, prolonged stress, nutritional deficiencies, particularly low vitamin D and zinc, which are both critical for immune regulation, and a gut microbiome that is out of balance. All of these things keep the immune system slightly on edge, slightly reactive, slightly overactive. And one of the most consistent physical expressions of that chronic immune activation is exactly what you are experiencing. Constant mucus, constant throat clearing, a body that never fully settles. And this is the thing that changes everything once you understand it, because it means that the solution is not just about sprays or antihistamines or avoiding dust. The solution has to address the whole picture: the digestive system, the diet, the sleep position, the hydration, the immune regulation, all of it working together. And once you start approaching it that way, something remarkable happens. The mucus does not just reduce temporarily. It begins to genuinely settle, consistently, in a way that lasts, because you are finally addressing what was actually driving it all along. And there are specific, practical, completely doable things you can begin doing starting today that work directly on each of these triggers. Simple changes, real changes, the kind that cost nothing and require no prescription, the kind that your body will respond to quickly once you give it the right conditions.